to Teach Economics to Your Dog, A Quirky Introduction, by Rebecca Campbell and Anthony McGowan. Narrated by Bronwyn Price. Preamble. Reader, meet Monty, who is to play a role in this book. Not perhaps the star, but definitely up for Best Supporting Actor. Monty is a Maltese. I sometimes erroneously describe him as a Maltese terrier, which is straightforwardly incorrect. Although in some ways terrier-like, in his tenacity and occasionally unfocused aggression, the Maltese is from a quite different family of dogs, and belongs on the lap, not down tunnels hunting for rats. It's always struck me as odd that Maltese are always referred to as Maltese dogs. This seems rather unnecessary. No one is going to mistake Monty for a Maltese rabbit or Maltese guinea pig, although I suppose you might mistake him for a Maltese muff. He's fluffy and white, and when washed and blow-dried, resembles a dandelion clock. At other times, he can appear a bit scraggy and bedraggled, like a heavy sneeze come to life. And the tendency of Maltese to develop dark tear stains below their eyes, for all the world like run mascara, makes him look like an albino goth in the midst of an emotional crisis. Although Maltese are not renowned for their intellect, Monty has a quizzical, inquiring sort of look, and often cocks his little head to one side, which makes him at least appear to be a good listener. So much for Monty's appearance. But here, we're more interested in his character. I expect that you, if you're a dog owner, chat to your dog. Perhaps it's mainly a matter of endearments and encouragement, interspersed with demands that they come, or sit, or stop chasing that postman. I also suspect that for some of you at least, your dog talks back. Perhaps he does it by the traditional canine mediums of barking, yowling, growling and tail wagging. Perhaps it takes a more eloquent form, the words appearing in your mind in a way that you can then articulate. What's that? You want a biscuit? And you want it now? Monty is an unusual dog in quite how well he manages to convey his thoughts. This was a skill he developed in a series of walks recorded in How to Teach Philosophy to Your Dog, which gave Monty a thorough grounding in the dialectical method. In other words, how to learn through conversation. Now, one understands that there might be, in the mind of the reader, a small degree of scepticism, a subject, incidentally, dealt with at length in the aforementioned book, about the extent to which a mere pooch could engage in relatively sophisticated intellectual debate. In that case, I will offer you an alternative. In The Third Policeman, the great Irish novelist and humorist Flann O'Brien describes the process by which a man and a bicycle can, by means of the simple scientific truth of Brownian motion, the jiggling about of molecules in any substance, combined with the close contact of the fundament and the saddle, become so intertwined and enmeshed that no clear distinction between the one and the other can be drawn. This leads to the many instances of human-like behaviour in bicycles. That tendency, for example, for bikes to nestle next to radiators in hallways during inclement weather. Something similar undoubtedly occurs with a dog and its owner. Those hours of stroking and lap-sitting, which is where Monty is right now, by the way, having his post-supper nap, have inevitably taken us to the point at which Monty is, to some unspecified degree, me, and me, Monty. So, in the walks that follow, you are at liberty to imagine either a McGowan-infused Monty or a Monty-infused McGowan as the junior partner in these discussions. Following our philosophical perambulations, it was quite clear that Monty wanted more. Philosophy is many things, a way to polish the blunted tool of your rationality, an engaging series of stories about what may make up the nature of reality, a guide to living a more ethical life. However, it could be argued that philosophy leaves much of the reality of existence out of the picture. Everything on the small scale about our daily struggle to earn a living, to, on the larger, the way in which society should be organised to bring the maximum benefit to the greatest number of people. This is quite a big hole in the understanding of any person, canine or human. It is the job of economics to fill this gap, hence the title of Robert Heilbronner's classic book on the history of economics, The Worldly Philosophers. It is economics that gives we philosophers a sharp kick in the pants, redirecting our attention from the clouds to ground level. In our lives, we are enmeshed in complex economic forces, generated by the way things are made, traded, sold. These forces determine the kind of lives we are able to lead. Of course, there is an underlying humanity connecting us all, but the infinitely complex texture of modern life, how we spend our working days, where we live, what we wear, what we eat, how finally we spend our retirement, is determined by these vast inhuman forces. Economics is the greatest tool we have. And as a philosopher, this stings, it truly does, for understanding these forces. What follows is a series of walks in which Dr. Rebecca Campbell, who flitted in and out of How to Teach Philosophy to Your Dog, tries to explain economics to Monty, and through him, to me, and you. Although intended as a friendly and welcoming primer to the subject, How to Teach Economics to Your Dog actually follows quite closely the structure of a typical introductory course that an undergraduate might take in the first year of an economics degree. And like such a course, it falls roughly into two halves, dealing first with microeconomics and then macroeconomics. Don't worry, these terms will be explained shortly. But for now, the micro just means the little stuff, the causes and consequences of the economic decisions individuals make, and the macro, the big stuff, such as the policies of governments and national banks, concerning things like interest rates and government spending. Economics and politics are, obviously, closely entwined. Decisions about economics have political consequences, and decisions about politics, economic ones. So I should point out that, as with every successful marriage, ours is one based on violent disagreement. Dr. Campbell is a big fan of markets and the capitalist system, which she believes, not without some empirical justification, to have transformed the lives of literally billions of people for the better. I am some sort of irresponsible anarcho-syndicalist with Marxist tendencies. Last Christmas, I asked for a Che Guevara beret and a "This Machine Kills Fascists" sticker to put on my guitar. I got a SodaStream and a pack of M&S underpants, since you ask. Monty, being infused with those McGowan molecules, will, to some extent, challenge some of Dr. Campbell's pro-market assumptions, but the fact remains that economics is, at its heart, the study of how markets work, and that will be the central focus of this book. Perhaps another few words about the domestic economy of the McGowan-Campbell family. Economists like to employ down-to-earth examples to help explain difficult concepts. One of the most famous of these, in the sense that even non-economists like me have heard of it, used by Adam Smith at the start of his masterpiece, The Wealth of Nations, 1776, involves pins. Making a pin, you might think, if you've thought about it at all, is a relatively straightforward process. But you would be wrong. One man draws out the wire, another straights it, a third cuts it, a fourth points it. The list goes on until we have 18 distinct operations, each performed by some poor drudge who does that, and only that. This specialisation, although it may well take away much of the natural delight of pin making.